Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Dojo Live. It's Monday. This is the recap show. I'm Tulio Siragusa, joined by Kim Lantis and Carlos Ponce. Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Pleasure to be here.
Hi.
So, if you're tuning in for the first time, what is the recap show? We recap last week's interviews in 10 minutes. That's it. We try to get it done in 10 minutes, and most of the time we succeed at it. So, let's see if we can do that today. We had three shows last week. Two were live, one was a rebroadcast. The first show was Remote, Flexible, and Autonomous Work with Joel Friedlander, founder at Red Guava. That was a rebroadcast.
Actually, it was a
Yes,
rebroadcast.
that was
Yes.
a
Mhm.
rebroadcast.
Mhm.
And then the other show was Why Collaborative Learning is the Future with Joel Nkounkou, who's the CEO of EcoText. And then we also have Social Media Management, the business use case with Gilad Salamander, who's the CEO at eClincher. So we had one live show and two rebroadcasts. I got it backwards. So of these shows, what stood out for you guys?
Well, I mean, it's always better to talk about the one that actually happened last week because it's fresh in one's memory, in my memory at least. And I really enjoyed that one with Joel, the and EcoText specifically. It's because I'm involved in learning endeavors every now and then, and I think that EcoText is well, I think it's very needed because a lot of people are nowadays more than ever because of the all the digital activity that's going on online. We all have to learn something. We all might as well learn something new, and what a better way to do this in a collaborative manner with Ecotext. So it's really memorable. That's a really memorable conversation. So that's the one that stood out for me the most. Well, how about you, Kim?
Yeah, what I liked about EcoText, about the collaborative nature, I think is this way, what they're figured out a way to encourage skills that aren't necessarily developed in a more traditional educational system, right? So, really encouraging things like critical thinking, understanding, questioning, pushing back, right, in a platform that allows for this type of conversation to happen. And I think those are the types of skills that are going to be necessary, right? More and more as we move toward this creative workforce, right? Which actually brings me to the rebroadcast of our show with Joel Freelander at Red Guava. The title of his show was Remote, Flexible, and Autonomous Work, which was really cool. I rewatched that broadcast and it was nice to again be reminded that there are companies who are, similarly aligned with what we do here at Encora Mexico with, flat organizations. And a lot of what he tapped on was this need to shift from the structure of what was, made sense and was established more in the industrial age to more of what we're experiencing today with what he's referring to as a creative age. And that's one of the biggest things that he highlighted was the need for us to have this transition into what does it mean to be a creative worker. A lot of people initially, your gut will tell you you're an artist, you're a musician, you're an actor, an actress. And his definition was a little different. He postulates that a creative worker is someone who does work where the amount of time to get the job done is not clearly defined, right? This maybe it
Hmm.
happens to take you 5 minutes to finish this work, or takes you 3 or 4 hours to come up with a viable solution. And then the type of environment that needs to happen in order for that creative work to happen, right? Flexibility, maybe I'm a creative worker and I just need to go to take a walk to sort of roll over in this problem in my mind to try to come up with a solution, right? So anyway, my point is that I think this collaborative soft skills that EcoText is trying to form, in the educational system really goes in line with this shift to the creative workforce that Joel was discussing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's an interesting conversation for sure in terms of changing the paradigm of how things have been done for forever. I mean, if we really look at it, everything we do today is based on the Industrial Revolution from the 1920s, 1930s, right? Everything was about production, manufacturing, processes, step by step, repetition. And so the entire way we work, the 9 to 5, the hours, all these things, the 5 days a week, all these things are all driven from this mindset that no longer is valid. It's no longer valid. Knowledge workers can think sometime in the middle of the night, come up with a great idea and get up at 2 a.m. and write out something amazing. So why have the limitation of time or the constraint of fixed processes? So it's an interesting way to envision the potential or re-envision the potential future of what work needs to look like, and
Mhm.
perhaps do away with some of the things that have binded us to a process that's no longer valid in today's age. What else came up for you guys for some of these restreams? What
Well, it
about
was
the social
interesting
media
because,
management one?
well, yeah, I think it's a nice connect, right? A large part of what we see now, creativity. Gosh, I can't talk today. As well as just the way businesses are functioning, a large portion of that has to do with social media. And what Gilad Salamander, CEO of eClencher, was talking about is how businesses can now utilize social media not just for the traditional sort of brand management, but switching into how we could utilize social media for a more customer relation management. And I really think that his words of wisdom, what I took away from that show, which we've heard before in a lot of shows, it's this common theme, is needing to prioritize our customer support. Right? We're seeing now that with this current generation of what's available to us, having solid customer support in place is really one of those things that's distinguishing businesses from their competition. And eClencher is one way to utilize social media to do just that. So there's lots of tools out there to help us get to those more human elements that are increasingly becoming more and more important, I guess, as we're transitioning over to this knowledge worker, creative worker lifestyle that inevitably is going to overflow into our personal lives as well.
Yeah, there's one thing that I definitely liked about the conversation with Joel Friedlander from Red Guava. The fact that I'm very surprised and amazed how they very successfully have implemented, even though that they're like an international company
Mm-hmm.
with teams, with a distributed team with people all over the world, they have managed to successfully implement the 30-hour week. Okay, so, and that tells us a lot on the level of trust that uh, Joel and the company's principals have placed onto their teammates. I mean, you have to have a tremendous amount of trust in your
Mm-hmm.
team, and the capacity to hold each other accountable in order to make these things happen. It's not just about, it's about a great culture. It's about trusting and being able to get so much done in a 30-hour week. I mean, it's quite remarkable, if you ask me, to do that and bring this company to such levels of success.
Yeah,
Even
I mean, he said in the show, and I wrote this down because I love this quote. I don't know if it's his or not, but he did say, I don't feel like I have the need to find a solution for a problem that doesn't exist." So if your
right,
company is able to function and your people are happy and you're, making profit or whatever with 30 hours a week, why should we feel like, we've got this
yeah,
10 hours
and
that's
I've
of productivity
Well,
that's not being filled, right?
well,
and
that's the whole thing. That goes back to the
Mhm.
ball and chain of the Industrial Revolution. We're still tied to this system that no longer serves us. And why we are
Yes.
tied to it is beyond me. But eventually, as companies like this break away from those chains, they'll discover that you know the fixed hours or
Yeah,
days are really irrelevant in today's
it
world.
is.
It's all about
You know what is
producing.
relevant though? This week's show. And we're coming to the end of our
That's
10
right.
minutes.
That's right.
Go,
What do we got
Carlos,
coming
go.
up? Quick, Carlos. You got 10 seconds.
wow, yeah, we got a bunch. We got tomorrow. We have pets and Dana Abbey. That's tomorrow. Wednesday, can grocers compete with Amazon with self shelf engine? And finally, Thursday, how the virtual marketplace is refitting event services professionals with in-event. That's what we have for this week. Right
All
here.
right. See you
Dojo.
guys back tomorrow at noon Pacific.
Bye.